Hallelujah. What's up, baby? How you doing?
What's up, man? Good to see you, bro.
I'm so excited to talk to you. Wayne Bennett, ladies and gentlemen. Wayne motherfucking Bennett's in the house. And I'm so excited to talk because I always give the context. I try to give people a little heads up. You are in my surrogate second class at School of the Arts, Drama 2010, with all of my people. I mean, you can see him right here. We got Alex Heffler. That's from the set of Two Gentlemen in Verona. That's Madison.
Is that Madison?
Yeah, I stole this off the set because I worked when I was a freshman in DMP.
Oh, that's
so my favorite crew. And I've talked about you on the show before a couple times. I think I told a story about using your drum set with Andrew Jernigan. But I haven't talked to you, bro, in like a million years. It's been so long. And we connected, I feel like, because it's easy to kind of rehash what I can, and then we're starting kind of fresh because, you know, we knew each other okay, like we were like acquaintances. We weren't like super tight at school or anything, but immediately when we met, you were leaving for the summer, and we met and we started talking about drums, and we've both been drummers for a long time. And you were like, I need to store my kit in town. Will you hold on to it for the summer? And I was like, can I put it together and maybe bang on it a little bit? And you were like, it's cool. Just, you know, keep it up and just make sure it's not in shambles when I get back. And man, that was a gift. That was a huge gift.
And you played that thing the whole summer?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. We were at
Stage Custom. It was my very first set when I was like 12 or something. I got that set, man.
Gorgeous.
I completely forgot about that, bro. Wow.
That was like my first memory of you. We did not know each other well, but you were literally, I think it was like a last minute thing of maybe you hadn't planned on leaving when you did or something, but it was like, I mean, and I lived with Brandon at the time. So I was, you know,
that's right,
connected to you through someone you trusted. I wasn't a total stranger, but we met pretty quick and just started talking about the kit. And before you know it, I was like, I had it all summer. And I actually ended up really reignited playing again for me, man, because I had really been on hold from not having my own kit for many years. Yeah, and I was finally able to put in some time. And man, it really, it turned me around. I ended up playing a lot in North Carolina kind of off that because I just moved there.
Well, I got to ask, you got to walk me through how School of the Arts happened for you, bro. Because in my head, Rob sort of just showed up. You know what I'm saying? But it happened to be this awesome kid who sort of got along with everyone. You know what I'm saying? Which is kind of dope because everybody ain't get along with everybody. You know, like, but I do remember seeing you in like might have been somebody's directing piece or something, man.
That's right. Bryn Harris, who's in your class. She did her third year project with me, Brandon, and Bryant Hernandez. We did like an Alan Ball one act.
Wow, bro. And I remember sitting in the audience. I'm like, who is this kid? He's good. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you had not been in the training with us those first 2 years and all of that. But I'm like, he's not overacting. He's doing it. You know what I'm saying?
I worked at IHOP at that time. I wasn't even at School of the Arts when I was in that. I was like, okay, so I'll tell you the quick story. And I've kind of told this on the podcast before, but I'm getting better at telling it fast. So, because it's not a simple story. And we talk about this on the podcast a lot about how there are people who go straight from, and we're going to talk about this with you when we get to it, but people who go from high school in the spring, graduate, spend the summer hanging out in their hometown, whatever. In the fall, they go to North Carolina School of the Arts, 17, 18 years old, versus the people who have whatever different path that made them take a break, go to another school first, whatever it was, and then show up older, you know. And we've talked to a lot of people on both sides of that. I'm one of the people who didn't have a direct path for a bunch of reasons. I went to another school first, dropped out, was like, I'm not going to go to college at all. My best friend from 5th grade, Brandon Harris, calls me and says, yo, I'm going to this school in North Carolina. You should I'm like, you know me in school. Like, I'm shit at it. It's not going to work. And he's like, different kind of school. They don't care how you did in high school. If you can do the art shit for 12, 14 hours a day. You can hang with this. And I was like, that can't be, but that's not a college. That's like what we had to he had to convince me. And I came out there originally for lighting design in DMP. That's what I got accepted as.
Yeah.
I got there in May of 2008. I was supposed to start in the fall of 2008, and I couldn't get the money together. And so at the last minute, literally the day of school, like backpack on my shoulder, ready to start in the fall, I basically found out you're not starting this fall. It's not going to happen. So I had to talk to DMP and defer my acceptance for a year to like get the money together.
Right.
So I spent a year in Winston, working at IHOP, doing, projects with people on campus, getting to know you and the other people that I got tight with.
Yeah.
As a townie, just as like a kid who lived in town, but I lived with Brandon and Ryan Rowitz. And so all the parties were at my house, that's how that kind of happened. And by the end of that year, by the time I was starting in the fall, I was like, I want to be in the fucking drama school so bad. Like, those are my homies. Like, I love lighting design, but man, I just like fell in love with you guys, and the whole idea of Gerald's program became incredibly interesting. But to me, I didn't know about it before. And so by the time I finally ended up starting in the fall, I was like, I'm doing that. I'm going to find a way into that. That's where I'm supposed to be.
Wow.
Over the course of that year, I'd done the directing project that you mentioned as an actor. And everybody was so fucking nice to me about that. I was terrified to do it because I was not in the drama school. And those directing projects don't have a lot of like outside people in them. It's really just students. And so it was weird to have that moment, because a lot of times, especially when you perform for the drama school, man, it's usually like that monologue night. That's when they first see you. And they know you're a freshman. They know you're new. They know what's up with you. And they're like, okay, where's he from? All right, let's go Jacksonville or whatever and they come out and they do the scene. You're like, okay, cool. And you log them away. You don't hear from them for a while. They show up again. And literally everyone goes to this scene, and I can feel it as the lights come up. People are like, what you just said. They're like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
We know the 100 people in the program. We remember them from those 2-3 things, whatever we saw. Who the fuck is this guy?
Where's this guy?
But everyone was really nice to me about it and really complimentary. And then in the fall, by the time I went to DMP, I was like, man, I'm going to do drama. I'm going to figure it out. Over the course of my freshman year in DMP and my effort to get in there, I directed Dave Brown, Alex Heffler, and Brandon in The Complete Works of Shakespeare Abridged as a showcase fundraiser. And it did pretty well. And I finally had a meeting in the winter with Gerald of like, hey, catching him up on the story I just told you. I want to do this. And he was like, wait, tell me again. What kind of the same feeling that I had on stage with people like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, right.
And I told him the situation and what I wanted to do. And he said, okay, let me think about it a little bit. And I was like, I'm happy to audition. And he was like, you don't need to audition. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, I was like, everyone auditions for the drama school. I got to do my monologues and shit. And he was like, I saw you act. I've seen you direct. What are you going to show me in a Shakespeare monologue that I don't know already? And I was like, okay. And I was like, is that good or bad? Because he hadn't said yes. He was just like, let me think about it. I've seen everything I need to see. And so he ended up letting me in as a second year actor. I did the second year as an fully just an acting student. I got to kind of AD on a couple shows.
So you were second year, our third year?
No, I was a second year the year after you graduated. My freshman year in DMP was your senior year.
Wow.
Because that's what the year I was directing Dave, Alex, and Brandon for the showcase thing.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. So really, by the time I finally got going, you guys were gone.
We're long gone. Okay. Yeah. That's so strange because I just remember you being around so much when we were there. You know what I'm saying? But you're saying...
I showed up the end of your second year. That's when we met.
Sure.
So for the whole last 2 years, yeah, I was there. And if there was a fourth year party, it was probably at my place. We got to talk about you. I've caught you up.
Yeah.
I only have one stock question, Wayne. Where are you from?
Jacksonville, Florida, man. I'm actually now, man. I'm back for the summer. You see me get my Matt Bullock on.
Yes, sir. Seltzer, baby. It's seltzer time. I got so into that after school. I wish I was drinking that shit while I was there. It would have been way healthier.
It's so crazy because I'm going on August will be 2 years that I've moved to New York City. And when I first got there, I'm kind of like, bro, what is the deal with these New Yorkers and these seltzer waters? Like, I don't.
Yeah.
South, there's the big gulp. You're gonna get a ton of sugar. Like,
did you grow up drinking soda?
Tons of it, man. I'm in
Me
the South.
too. I lived on it.
Like
From Texas. So yeah.
There we go. Cool.
100%.
Soul food and sugar, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I was kind of like, what's the deal with this stuff, man? And then I went, 0 calories when you're trying to knock that weight off. You know what I mean?
The first time, dude, this is my like crazy story about that. It's not even that good of a story, but it's so funny now because I have a fucking soda stream in my house. Like I make my own seltzer water at home. I just chug that shit because it keeps me drinking water. And when I was working at IHOP that year, we had this old lady who was the manager who loved School of the Arts kids. And she wanted, and that was back when I was still just pounding soda. And I worked at IHOP, but we had the fountain and it was free. I was just like, Mountain Dew, Dr. Pepper, let's go. Unlimited. Abusing it and my body. And she goes, I make my own soda. This like old white lady. She's like tiny. She always looked like she had like woke up 20 seconds ago. And she's like, I make my own soda. And I was like, okay. And she was like, she was like, you want me to make it for you? And I was like, okay, sure. And she went and made like clear seltzer water and put like maybe 2 pumps of like strawberry syrup in it from like when we make drinks. And it was the weakest shit. As someone used to soda, I don't know if you remember the first time you had seltzer with no sugar and you were like, this shit is poison.
Right.
I was like, oh my God. And I felt so bad because she was my boss. But I was like, no, don't make your own soda, Linda. You need to stop. Don't make anybody else try that. But here I am. I consume it at mass every day.
That's how I am now, man. Like when I have to cut weight, it's sugar and carbs, bro. And I was consuming all of my calories and sugar and soda, bro.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, I just need the fizz and the flavor. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And minus the sugar, and we're good. So yeah, bro. So but I'm from Jacksonville. I'm from Florida, bro.
Right. So I want to talk about that because there are quite a few people at School of the Arts from Jacksonville. There's kind of a community there, a pretty good theater community in the high school level, is there not?
Oh yeah, man. I remember my audition for School of the Arts, man, in Chicago at the Palmer House, and
it was Unifieds.
Yeah, Unifieds. There was Bessida and there was Bob Francisconi at the table. And did my audition. And they specifically asked me about that. Like, who do you know that's at School of the Arts now? It was Natasha Galano, who went to my high school, DA Douglas Anderson here in Jacksonville. There was a girl named Brittany Holsinger who was a year ahead of me, but she ended up leaving her second year, my first year. I just think that she just wasn't interested in the path of an artist. There was Johnny Milani.
Stage manager extraordinaire.
Incredible. He's always been like that since high school. Like I ripped on Milani. I saw him at that holiday party in New York, and it was awesome to catch up with him. It was Kelsey Tippins.
Yeah, also stage manager. She's like next level.
Yeah, man. So many people, bro, like from Jacksonville and specifically from my arts high school.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which was really cool. So they asked me that. I named all the names. They're like, oh, so you kind of have a community already, you know?
Right. That's good. That makes it easier to transition too. So let's back it up a little bit though. So are you born and raised Jacksonville? Just always been there?
Yeah, born and raised here, bro. Like,
and what's paying the bills in the family when you're a kid?
When I was a kid, in terms of my parents?
Yeah, like so what's the because here this is why I asked that question. I find it very interesting to think of when you're a little kid and you have parents who go off to work, which is like most kids, your
Yeah.
parents have to leave you every day and they have to say, I got to go work. And at first you're like, what does that mean? Aren't you being here with me is what we do? And they're like, no, I have to go and do this thing and come back. And they have to explain to you what is the thing that takes them away every day. And
Yeah.
sometimes that changes. Sometimes that's a big deal. Like, I got to go because dad's a doctor and I'm saving lives with cancer, whatever, crazy shit. Some people are like, I got houses to build, whatever it is. But I think
Sure.
it's very interesting and it kind of informs what we come to think of as work when we observe that as a kid. So I'm just curious what that culture was like.
Yeah. And I guess in my experience, man, like I grew up in the projects, bro. It was like
Right.
public, you know what I'm saying? Like, so my mom would have jobs from time to time, like a receptionist, that kind of thing. She was into like,
Temp jobs.
yeah, like front desk work. That was sort of her thing. But I'll be honest with you, there were a lot of pockets where she didn't have work, you know,
Right.
so she was home with me and my younger brother. I didn't move with my dad until I was 12. My parents were married when I was born, and I think they divorced when I was like 2.
Okay.
And I lived with mom, and like I said, we were in the projects, man, and mom gave us a lot of leeway. Like she gave us a lot of freedom. You know what I'm saying? Like it was called Brentwood Project. So every day was sort of like a different story, man. It was like an adventure, me and my younger brother. Like you just never knew what you would get into. I mean, football one day, it's a fight the next day. 2 old ladies are yelling at each other across the way. It was like this environment where, you know, it was the bottom. It was poverty, but it was always kind of adventurous and interesting because you just never knew what you run into.
When you were in it, did it feel the way that it feels now as you look back on it? Let me give a little context to that question. In contrast to that, I grew up all over the fucking place economically. But sometimes we lived in a really nice ass suburb. We didn't always have the nice house in the suburb, but a few times we got to live in a nice suburb. Sometimes we lived in a trailer park. Sometimes I lived in Hell's Kitchen in high school, the right next to Port Authority, the fun part. Yeah, like I've been all across the place. And I moved a lot. And when I was a kid, like most kids, I thought that shit was normal. I thought that's what everybody else was doing. And I didn't think of it as a chaotic household. I didn't think of it as a disjointed or dysfunctional, like shit that my therapist wife would call it now. She would say, you know, it was wild. You grew up in a wild situation. But I didn't feel like it was wild at the time. It felt normal to me. And that's why I kind of asked, like, what was your experience of that project chaos?
Yeah, I mean,
at the time,
it was all we knew. So, I mean, I
Right.
guess we really had not much. We didn't have a lot to reference to say that this is good or bad, up or down, left or right. You know what I mean?
Did you feel happy?
This was what it was. It was exciting. It was adventurous because we were kids who had freedom. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I mean, I'm a father now. Like, you know, I'm being truthful. I don't know that I would give my son as much freedom as my mom gave me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
How old's your son?
He'll be 7 He'll be 7 Wednesday, bro.
Hey, congratulations. By the time this comes out, he'll be 7. Wonderful.
Yeah, for sure, bro. So
That's
I'm
awesome.
super thrilled about that. But yeah, man, like probably not as much freedom as she gave us to sort of roam around. I will tell you this. Brentwood Elementary happened to be an art school. You know what I mean?
That was going to be my next question.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm a faith man, you know, and what are the odds? What's the irony that in this community of poverty and drugs and violence and, you know, that Brentwood Elementary would happen to be an art school. And so you know, I went there, I started there in like 2nd grade, I think. And when I was in 2nd grade, when I was in 3rd grade, Wayne Bennett was hell. You know what I'm saying? I had that rep from teachers of like, this kid is absolute, just a terrorizer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, man, my fourth grade year, my teacher, this lady named Allison Massey, man, she's the first person to ever really stand up to me like in a school setting, you know?
Mm-hmm. How'd she do it?
She just like, look, I don't care about what they talking about. Like, I'm not having this in my class. You know what I'm saying? So she's like, you're way too smart. You're way too gifted. You're way too talented. Like, we need to find something to channel this energy and to direct it. And so she put me in a tap dance class, bro. And the tap dancing was pretty cool, but it wasn't really my thing. You know, like, I kind of knew early on, like, this is cool, but it's fun to be around people. But
there's footage somewhere, right? We got a VHS tape somewhere with tap dancing Wayne Bennett, or no?
Man, I wish I could pull up some of that. I think it's lost, bro.
I mean, got the kind of money now that you would be happy to get that link for me. You know what I mean? I would make it worth your while, 100%.
For sure, bro.
You let me know.
But so I like, yeah, man. So I was like, you know, this dressing out, this tight stuff, like, it ain't really my wave.
Right.
So then I got into theater, man. And my first play was A Midsummer Night's Dream in 5th grade. I played Lysander. I mean, we had no clue what we were saying. I didn't.
Right,
I knew,
of course not.
Yeah, man, but I knew I memorized all those lines, you know?
Right.
And I had found my place, bro. Like,
what did that do for you?
It was accountability. You know what I'm saying? And through the lens of like, there's a reason for me to behave now. You know, like, this isn't just, all right, you need to be an obedient boy, obedient just because you have to do it.
Right.
And that's what good people do. It's like, no, in order to do this, you must behave this way. You know what I mean?
You really needed the incentive.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely, man. And it was like, all right, now I have a reason to tighten up, to keep my grade.
What was it about doing that made it worth it to you? Because you'd probably been offered other kinds of incentives before by adults trying to get you to give a shit about something so that you would. That's what kids do. I was a teacher. When you have a kid like that, you try to find a thing that they care about to incentivize behaving. The problem is that can be hard to find because the kids would be like, I don't care about candy. I don't care about being in trouble. I love being in trouble. Like, there's so much that you're like, well, what do you care about that I could take away or give to you that would make you straighten up? What was it about being on stage that you were like, don't take this shit from me. I need this.
Bro, it was like, I don't know, man. You know this stuff. It's like, artistry sort of chooses you, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how to define it. I don't think that everyone is born an artist. You know, it's one of those. I truly think that it chooses you, man. And when you come in contact with it, you just kind of know. You know, I don't know that you share that experience, or like you've experienced that. Maybe, I don't know, perhaps your wife or something. You know, in relationships, sometimes people, when it just, that perfect match comes together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was one of those things for me where I just fell in love with it. Like, I could channel all of these frustrations and angers and misunderstanding and you know, and this life's unfairness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Projects and that sort of thing. But I was also exposed to people who lived at the beach and who had both of their parents in their house, or just, you know how the art sort of bridges the gap with every socioeconomical, like, economic standing. You know what I mean? It brings room. And there was something about that was really beautiful to me, that I was no longer the poor kid. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
As much as, hey, man, this is a guy that we love. He's here to do the job. He's doing it well. You know what I mean?
I think that is such a powerful message, man. And I think that is something we touch on in this show a lot. And I feel like it's also one of the benefits of, I'm always arguing. People are like, you want to, and man, you and I can work on this together for the rest of our lives, but you want to help kids in poor communities. You want to help kids whose parents are in and out of jail, kids whose parents are dealing with addiction, kids with, less than a full household in guardianship, whatever your situation is. foster kids who have no parents living with other parents. I mean, the list goes on and on. And my wife, like I said, she's a therapist and a social worker. We talk about this stuff all the time. And it's like, if you want to help those kids, start with giving them art for real. Not every one of them is going to become a professional artist, but it is a vehicle for expression. It is a way to channel all that shit. And that, you know, that story about you going from the kid who was like, I'm going to start just ripping pages out this book to see who stops me. Like, I remember those kids as a teacher. And I remember those kids in the classroom because I was always cutting up. I like to push the thing, but as soon as it looked like I was going to get thrown out the class, I was like, I don't know. No, I would back up. I would bail. Like, I wasn't pushing it all the way, but I hear the story you're telling, and to see you do that 180 and be like, nope, straighten my tie and get my shit in order because I care about this.
Yep.
That is what you were asking them for without realizing. You were like, I have this.
Yeah.
I'm acting out and I want to act. You know, I need to put that into something, you know? And I think that we don't, unfortunately, we don't always have our education systems built to recognize what that kid's trying to tell you, unfortunately. But I'm so glad that it hit you, and it hit you early enough for you to start really building a skill set and a passion, because it didn't hit you at 16. It hit you at 5th grade. So you already had that mindset. When did the drums come in?
You know, I grew up playing drums in church, man.
I almost played in a couple praise bands.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, man, my mouth is too much for them. I can't keep it together.
Hey, for real?
Yeah, I can't, like, man, I went to an audition once.
Bro, that's hilarious, bro.
You might like this. I went to an audition once. I was in high school too. I knew better. I didn't mean to. I was raised Christian, but I've never been a religious person since about like 6th or 7th grade. But I've still always been tight with my church friends. Like, I always still vibe with them, and I didn't like stop being friends with people because they stayed with church or whatever. So I had a bunch of friends who would play in groups. I was like, man, I just want to play in a band. Like, I want the practice. A lot of times the churches had dope kits that they would let you play. You didn't have to have your own to be in the. So I was like, man, this gig pays and comes with a kit. Like, I don't care who we're praising to. Let's go.
Let's go.
And I went to an audition. It was the second time I almost played in a group, but this second audition was the last time I was like, I got to stop pretending this is the right place for me. I went in and they had some song. I didn't know it, but it was something. Maybe they wrote it. I don't know. I didn't recognize it at all. And they're like, can we just like play through it and just, you know, they didn't have any, they had no sheet music. It wasn't anything. It was just like a jam band audition. They're like, just play along. Yeah. And I just did. And it was the most simple, basic shit. And they were looking at me like I was like Goodwill Hunting doing like long division. They were like, whoa, you don't know this song? You've never heard this? And I was like, no, I can play in 4/4 time. Like, this is easy. And so I just was like, and they go, well, we all think you're really good. Like, so one of the girls said that. And I go, hell yeah. There was like a bunch of people. I just like my first thing. And I said it like big. I was like, hell yeah. And they're like,
sub there out of the room.
Exactly. We're in the main. Anyway, I was like, I guess I got the look, and they still were like, you should come back, a little less excited. And I was like, I think y'all need to find somebody who knows how to behave themselves.
Right. That's funny, bro. Yeah,
that's the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. It's like, it's crazy because like I think growing up in Jacksonville and musician culture, I mean, Jacksonville has produced some really incredible musicians, man. And
that whole region makes some of my favorite music, from Atlanta to Jacksonville, and that whole dope.
And so, but a lot of these guys, you know, they get church gigs, and that's where they practice their skills. Right. Not really there for the sermon or the religious aspect of it. It's, you know, we kind of came up in church where it's like, all right, we're gonna play these songs. When the preacher get up to preach, we going in the back. When somebody's going to McDonald's to make a run,
Right.
we out back on the kid.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it was more like a bit of that, like in terms of musicians' approach to how they would treat service, that kind of thing.
So why stick with acting over trying to go the drum route? Dude, you're a great drummer.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. And it's crazy, bro. Like, cause, for a while I went from Brentwood Elementary, it was a School of the Arts, to what was called La Villa School of the Arts. It was middle school. And at one point I was in the jazz band and I was also in drama, and so I learned a lot, bro, about swing and and just being in a band with like these guys who are now like elite professional musicians. You know what I'm saying? And just how another aspect of collaboration, of rhythm, of tone, of dynamic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All things that I feel like applies to the actor's process, but just in a different way, like that the body understands it. Like with drumming, it's one of those things, like what's so dope about it is that you feel it. It's not one of those things that's heady. Like, right, I was listening to your I forget what you were talking about. You're talking about our class in 2010, sort of us being intellectuals. That was kind of our vibe. And but the gift was like in that process, even at School of the Arts, every time I got an opportunity to hop on the kit, it's like, all right, all of this thought goes out of the way. What you play, what you feel. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I do feel like the actor has to sort of learn. Great actors learn to do that as well, just in a different way. You know what I'm saying? Do the work to throw it away, to just play your music. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the question was, why acting over music? And so this has always been like a tough thing for me because I feel like they were both sort of equally a part of me. But after I left middle school, when I got to Douglas Anderson High School of the Arts, it was like one of those things, you're going to have to make a decision. Either you're going to...
You went to art school for all three of your schools.
Yeah, man.
4.
Yeah, like a real deal arts baby.
Yeah. From like, so technically you're like kindergarten was at an art school because you were at Brentwood?
No, actually I was at a school called John Love. And then
when did you move to Brentwood Elementary?
2nd grade. Yeah.
So 2nd grade through undergrad, your art school all the way through. That's pretty special, man. That's not even available almost anywhere.
Right.
For real. I didn't know arts schools were a fucking thing.
Wow.
Ever until I like left like Texas. And we had some of the best rated schools like in the country. We would have like blue ribbon, whatever the fucking thing they hand out, like, top notch. And there was I remember our high schools. So my district had 4 high schools and they each had like a little specialty. Really? And it was like, they would get extra funding for that department. So that like the school I went to, but you still had to like be in the zone of that high school to go there unless you like applied and transferred and took the extra bus or whatever. Yeah. But the concept of a fully arts-based school for high school where everyone's there doing arts, like School of the Arts has their high school program. But man, I don't have the energy to be as bitter and resentful as I want to be about not knowing it existed when I needed it.
Yeah, for sure.
I went to one in I went to one in New York. I told you I lived in Hell's Kitchen. I went to an arts-based high school in New York for 1 year, but I thought that was you had to live in New York City.
Is that LaGuardia?
I wish. No, I auditioned for LaGuardia. I didn't get in. I went to a school with it's the most terrible name. One of the curses of going there is I have to say their name for the rest of my life. Talent Unlimited High School.
Okay.
Terrible name. Well, and to say your talent is unlimited when you rate worse than the other 2 schools in town, I think is just ironic and weird.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, that's a very specific experience to keep going with that. And you said when you got to Douglas, did you have the chance to go to music? Were you thinking about like doing that there?
No, I knew that I would have to narrow my focus.
Right.
And so I just feel like I had more stake in the stage. You know what I mean?
You thought you were better at it?
For sure. Yeah, I think I was a better actor than I was a drummer. You know what I mean?
Really?
Although I was a dope drummer.
How did you judge that? Like, what made you think that? Just out of curiosity.
There was just some guys, bro. There was just some guys.
Like some other drummers that made you feel bad?
You just like, oh my God, what am I doing? You know what I'm saying?
So it really came down to how often you were embarrassed by other people's talent, and that's how you judged your own.
Exactly, bro. You know, it's this kid named Jameson Ross, bro. This is one of my best friends, bro. He's a professional jazz artist. I caught his show in New York, as a matter of fact. Top of this year, bro. I mean, he's Grammy nominated. He plays with that group Snarky Puppy.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Real deal, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Snarky Puppy's like no bullshit jazz. Like that they don't fuck around.
And I mean, this kid was smashing so hard that it's just
that's like, yeah, if that's who you're playing next to, you're like, I should be an actor who knows how to play the drums.
Right. I'm gonna go and learn these lines. You know what I mean? So
I'm gonna go be the best drummer in the acting class.
Absolutely, bro. You know, I'll take that. So
what was it like for you? I mean, the culture has changed at School of the Arts so much with the way they cast people now. It is so different than it used to be. And it was always going to put you in the minority to be a minority, but you were in the minority.
God,
you're the only person of color in your class other than Vanessa Hernandez, maybe?
Hernandez, yeah. Yeah.
So the only black person in your class, the only person really bringing, because Vanessa is from Los Angeles and, is a very totally different culture than yours. It's not even worth comparing. So you're bringing a very specific perspective to every acting class, every discussion about every play.
Yeah.
What is that experience like for you? We don't talk about that a lot on this show, but I think we should.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, bro. I felt like a fish out of water at School of the Arts. You know what I'm saying?
Economically, racially.
I mean, culturally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I've been in art schools.
Right.
It was like, all right, cool. You know, like when I'm with the theater crew, there's diversity there. We rehearse, but I always got my team of musicians. These are all my homeboys.
Right.
And we black and we all culturally the same and we all party the same.
Right.
You know, vernacular is the same. I don't have to explain, flexing, stunting, terms like that. You know what I mean? It's just like,
Yeah.
We understood, so I had that balance. But when it came to School of the Arts, it was like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's not a lot of black people here. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a whole different thing. Like, for me, culturally, these are...
And a lot of those, I'm going to say this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I may be out of turn, but a lot of those white people, too, at School of the Arts are white people. I mean, the whitest people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah,
and man, not all of them, but a lot of them are not familiar with any of the culture that you just referenced. It's completely out of anything they've ever experienced.
Anything, like people that I felt like, bro, like we would never, unless we were here, there's no way I'd ever meet you and we'd be cool. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it was kind of that. It was that sort of thing, man. And
did you have a person that surprised you? You ended up being really tight with. You're like, man, when I first met you, I was like that exact thing. But then by the end, you're like, he's actually the fucking homie. Like he really like fucking tight with this guy.
You know what that is,
or
bro?
Girl. Yeah,
man. Andrew Jernigan, ace, bro.
He's the fucking best.
Ace, man. I love Andrew Jernigan, man. Like Ace is my guy. Like. And it's crazy because he and I were so different in school. We were from completely different walks, bro. And we had a couple run-ins too. Not serious things, but discussions about like us, buddy. That's just what happens when you're, you know what I mean? But
that place is a pressure cooker. It'll make the best of friends like rip each other's head off. That's a thing.
yeah. But by the end of it, and like today, it's like you graduate school and you realize that you feel like you've gone to war with these people. It's a very special, a very unique thing that not a lot of people experience. And so every single one of them, like at this point, it's like, I know that was my experience, but I don't view it as like my white friends or black. It's like, no, these are my brothers. These are my sisters. You know what I mean? Like I love them deeply because we share this very special thing. Like I've been making contact with a lot of people because I've been in New York now, like, and just checking in and catching up with Madison, Allie Bill, and you know what I mean? And when I see them, it's dope, bro. Like it's really awesome. And I mean, I don't want to like, you know what I'm saying, say anything too negative about my experience in terms of like I do wish that there was more diversity because culturally, like, yeah, I was a fish out of water. But in the same sense, it was like I really had to root my heels in the things that were authentically me, that I feel like that I brought and that were unique to me, and I had to really be me as a result of that. You know what I'm saying? All while sort of discovering who I was becoming. You know what I'm saying?
You know what I love about that? And I'm sorry to cut you off, but I can't lose this thought because you're pointing to something that I've been trying to talk about, I think, for a really long time, about how individualism and community in artistry is a delicate, important thing. So here's what I'm trying to articulate. I'm going to try to get this out before I lose it. Yeah. I think there is a current push and trend to try to compartmentalize identities in culture, in art, and specifically in those making things, to say like, we want more diversity. A lot of times what that looks like is let's get more of the same kind of people together over here that are undervalued or underappreciated, or their stories are undertold, and help them tell their stories. I think that's a great thing. We should do that. But at the same time, the things that we jump to, like race or even gender or sexuality, something that we may jump to as like, oh, we need to help that group of people out, tell their stories. We should do that. But that's also not the only thing that makes us unique as storytellers, as artists. Like, yeah, you were the only person in your graduating class that was authentically able to tell Black stories. That's true.
Yeah.
But it's not as if you're the only person out of that 25 whatever people that can tell an authentic, unique story that no one else can tell. They all have a different experience, even if they were like, 90% white, whatever.
Right.
All those white people don't all have the same white story. And they don't all have the same story based around their gender or sexuality or where they grew up or what their family dynamic was. And that was the thing that I remember noticing at school as part of the classes that, I think we could have more racial and ethnic diversity, and the gender gap could be a little better on the male to female, all that. And they've done most of that, as I understand it, in waves since we left. So they're not really batting the same way they used to. But with that being said, I remember just being blown away. It felt like they did such a good job casting the ensemble because each person brought something totally different to the man. It was like the cast of SNL or something where you're just like, they can't all play the same part.
Right. You're so uniquely different, distinct. Yeah. I remember my first year watching the fourth years. It's like Dylan Heffler, Alex Heffler's brother, and Adam Guerra, and just some killers, bro. Like I'm just, bro, I get excited again thinking about the feeling that I felt watching those guys. You know what I'm saying? Because it was like, he's dope. No, but he's dope. And he's dope. And she's dope.
And in totally different ways.
And they can't be each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't even compare their talents because they're so uniquely different.
It's like when they would double cast somebody in a play at school, and they would be like, all right, we got two versions of the company, basically the same shit. But on Friday, Wayne's going to play this guy. And then on Saturday, Ace is going to play him or whatever. And y'all going to switch every night. Yeah. We would be lined up to see both those shows because we would be like, what part are Wayne and Ace gonna fucking split?
Right.
That's gonna change the whole goddamn play. We learn more from stuff like that.
Yeah.
Benton Guinness was just on the show and told a great story about that. Him and just another white dude in his class, Alex, split this part. But man, it's like night and fucking day. It's like Orlando Bloom and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Just like, what fucking movie is that? Like, let's see both cuts, because Jesus, that's different. And
Yeah,
I think
bro.
that gets celebrated in
Yeah,
the right
man.
ways, you know, in that training.
Yeah, that's real, bro. And I will say this too, like, it's like, I did develop a confidence in School of the Arts about being a Black man and holding my own in the room, no matter who's around me. You know what I mean? I say that to say that sometimes in Black communities, the idea is we don't fool with white folk, or we keep a distance. You know what I'm saying? Or we
Yeah.
don't integrate in those kinds of communities. You know
That's
what I'm
why
saying?
you wanted to do this on Zoom, right? I said, let's do it in person, but you're like, I don't sit with like that.
Right.
So
You know, right. Yeah, bro. So
over email, I thought about maybe not saying it out loud on the podcast and protecting you, but I was like, nah, you know, we're being straight up with each other.
oh, that's funny. Yeah, man.
So
But it's
go ahead.
it's like that portion of it is like sometimes, and I don't mean this all the time. Sometimes some Black people can feel intimidated by white people. You know what I'm saying? Like, and maybe it's through my experience in coming up with so much diversity. I've never felt intimidated. You know what I mean? Like I've never felt like I was less than, or I don't deserve to be in the room. I've never felt like I'm not smart enough to articulate my thoughts. I've always felt that, hey, you know what I mean? Like, this race stuff is, who cares? I'm a man, you are a man. Let's exchange some ideas. You know what I mean?
I really appreciate that perspective for a bunch of different reasons. And I think it's the thing that we used to try to get to when we would say things like, I want to be colorblind. And then for a while, people were like, yeah, but you shouldn't ignore someone's race like completely. Like we don't have to be blind to it. We can just like be aware of it and not let it lead us to making bad decisions. But I think that so saying like I'm colorblind now is like a terrible thing, but there used to be something kind of great about that thought, which was just like, can't we go to the next thing? Can't we go to like, okay, yeah, we're two different skin colors. We're from, our genetics are like 0.0%, whatever different. Cool. What's the play? And what are we having for dinner? Like, that's what the fuck is going on. Like, who cares? Like, we do hope to get to that. And I think the thing that I've always appreciated, it's one of the things I loved about living in North Carolina, man, because I always personally, when I was young, I was raised in a very, very white culture. And then my mom and dad got divorced and my mom married a Mexican guy. And so we started to get a little bit of a different cultural perspective. But when I found hip hop in the late 90s, dude,
Come on, bro.
it was over. I was like, this is the most incredible shit I've ever heard music wise. And I started on like, in the mid 90s, I was buying like Will Smith records. And then my brother-in-law gave, Big Willie Style was one of the first CDs I bought on my own.
You digging with it. Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'm going to Miami. But I remember my brother-in-law gave me 2001, gave me Dre's album, and that, which is one of the greatest hip hop albums of all time. And it was the first time I ever listened to music that my parents, it's not like they didn't want me to listen to it, but they didn't want to hear it. They were like, close your door.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't get that, because I really was one of those dorks who grew up doing the same shit with my parents. And it wasn't like my parents had a racial bias, because, man, they grew up, they put me on to Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor and like so much Black comedy and film and stuff young. Yeah. So it wasn't about that. I think a lot of it, honestly, is the speed of the lyrics always put them off. They're like, I can't think that fast. It's not fun for me because I don't know what they're saying. And then also I feel like they're talking about a lot of cultural shit that I don't relate to. So they just were like, I'm out. But to me, there was something about especially some of the neighborhoods that I lived in and some of the different friend groups that I popped around to, there's something that just screamed at me about that music. And that was at the same time that fucking Eminem showed up in the world. And so to be a white dude that was falling in love with hip hop at a time that the biggest name in hip hop right now is this white dude that everyone's like, you're not supposed to do this shit. You know that, right? You could be Vanilla Ice and we can laugh at you trying to do this, but you can't be taken seriously as an artist. And he was like, eat shit. That it really, I honestly, dude, it impacted the way that I related to everybody and the way I related to culture and music and everything from that point forward. And it was always for me a search for trying to connect to any culture that was like different than mine. If it was like, if you said a word, you know, that I didn't get, that was slang, I was like, fuck is that? I got to know this right now. I don't want to be behind. I wanted to be, I don't know. I just wanted to be involved in that conversation because I felt like the conversation, and I still feel this, I feel this way to this day. I feel like the conversations that are had in hip hop are the, like, other than maybe in stand-up comedy, are like the most important, interesting conversations that happen. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that music speaks to me in a completely different way.
Yeah, I think it's just raw, bro. Like, it's not politically correct. It's not edited.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, did you ever see that thing we did in what was it called? The 2 weeks when we had like the break.
Intensive Arts?
Intensive Arts. There was Brandon orchestrated it raw.
Yeah, of course. I saw all of them.
All of them, right? I saw Row Body, dude. Did you see Row Bodies?
Where he smashed the guitar at the end?
The guitar at the end. And there was, bro, right? Something that, oh my God. That's another one of those moments that get me going, bro. When I saw that, I went, oh, I need this next year. I want that next year. You know what I'm saying?
You did it, didn't you?
Did it. My 4th year. Yeah, bro. And it was something, right, raw. It's just like, it's so attractive, so magnetic about something that's like an artist who is authentically speaking from themselves, no matter if you like it could be offensive, but I'm gonna kick it how I feel, blood raw from my heart. You know what I mean?
That, yes, dude, you're exactly right. That is the fucking attraction that I had that pulled me away a lot from the white culture that I was raised in to Latino culture and Black culture, because it felt like better or worse. And honestly, into like gay culture later in my life, it was like, because they are so authentic. They are so like, I'm not making a thing so you'll like it. And they might even specifically be like, and if you don't like it, kiss my ass. Like, you know, it's like, because that's how I really feel. And maybe even if I don't really feel that way, I'm going to say that shit loud until it is real to me.
Yeah.
Like, and I grew up like rock music, country music, you know, stuff that it feels a little bit like you're making it because you know I'll like it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you figured out the formula and you're going to sing about your truck and your dog and the beer and the lake. And I'm like, I've got you. Fun times at the lake. Let's have a beer. But I got tired of it because I was like, well, they just kind of keep saying the same thing. And then the first time I heard Dr. Dre, or the first time that I heard even Jay-Z, or like anybody in that era, it just, man, I was like, I was affected in a way that I still to this day struggle to articulate. And it drives me towards that kind of dense music. And also why I totally understand the why some of my favorite people to watch do Shakespeare at school were not white people. Man, I mean, they're fine. They're good. They could be great. They could be really, really great. But man, there was a connection sometimes to anyone you could tell was a fan of like hip hop or rap or poetry in some way before that they just grind those words, and it feels like real shit. And you, even if you don't understand what they're saying, you know what the fuck they're saying.
Oh my God, bro, never forget watching their 3rd year, who's Desi Bing.
Yeah, Desi Bing.
Shakespeare was just so beautiful. Like, just rooted, just, oh my God, just all the feels. That thing I'm talking about, like, Rob, of of playing music, man. Of
Yeah.
like doing the work to forget about the work and just living, playing the music. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of stuff that I'm interested in, that I'm still, that still gets me, man. That still inspires me. You know what I mean?
Well, we got to catch up though, because I know we only have so much time, but I want to get to
Yeah.
afterwards. You've been on kind of a hiatus from acting and that kind of stuff. You took a bit of a break, did you not? And you said just 2 years ago you moved back to New York. You kind of catch me up on that, what that journey was like for you.
Yeah, Brandon. So I left School of the Arts, 22. I moved out to LA. And the mission for me was like, all right, I'm going to rap. Exactly what you're talking about. Like I'm
Brentwood Slim, baby.
Right. Brentwood, that's what it was.
Yes.
Like, I want to be Kendrick. I'm going to be Drake. I'm really about to do this and get it popping. And so went out to LA, met some guys, started writing a ton of music. I was working at like Bloomingdale's in Century City. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
And living with my girlfriend at the time. And yeah, and just trying to.
Were you trying to act, or you were just hitting hip hop, like just trying to rap?
Was just rap. I was like, I don't really want to act right now. And
got it.
Rap is a bit of a young man's game. So it was
That's
like,
true.
In my youth, let's just pedal to the metal.
It's like dancing, right? Let's burn it while it burns, for sure.
Right. So it's like, let me get this popping. If I do it the right way, that can be the gateway into my space of acting.
And people be like, oh shit, Brentwood Slim's an actor. Look, wait, where did you go?
Right.
Yeah. That's not the worst play, bro. That's not the worst play.
Yeah. So that's sort of how I was thinking about it strategically, man. But a year and a half of me being in LA, it wasn't my vibe, bro. Like, maybe because I'm Southern bred, I'm very like, I'm not ever trying to leverage people for anything. Like, and I kind of got that feeling of Los Angeles, of people were not interested in even speaking to you if it wasn't about getting them to the next move, or, sort of using each other to elevate, and I understand that, there is space for that. Like, but for me, it just felt like this is a culture that was not
incompatible. Yeah.
Yeah. What I needed. So came back home and launched a Kickstarter. We raised like $6,500 in 30 days. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. I didn't sleep for that entire month. I did my first album. It was called Loretta's Boy. And yeah, man, I started to build a little wave around the city here in Jacksonville. So I'm like, all right, like this is the path I want to take and stay true to it. I think, I wasn't even thinking about acting much. Oh no, I did that. I was doing a lot of shows around town, and Michelle Shea calls me and says, hey, I'm doing 7 guitars in DC. Why don't you audition for it? And so,
if I remember correctly, she directed you in Fences.
Fences, yep, at School of the Arts. And so I'm like, all right, cool. And so I auditioned, and they cast me. It was Joshua Morgan's company, No Rules in DC. Went up there, did that. It was an awesome experience. I got to do it with Ro Body, which is dope. I mean, he's still
one of the greatest actors of our generation. Let's be honest.
Ro Body is, man, like, what Lauren Henry said about Ro Body, bro. I saw her a couple months ago, or maybe top of the year, and this is so true. What she said, she's like, what I love about Ro is he never complains. Win, lose, or draw, he decided on this life. Whatever comes with it is what he's willing to take.
And I tell you a really quick Ro Body story I think you'll like.
Yeah.
Dude, I moved to New York 2013. One of the 4 moves in my life where I went with like less than $1,000 and whatever I could fit in my car or whatever. And I move up to New York, and Brandon was like, I got a spot for you in the apartment that he had with like a bunch of rooms and shit. He's like, we got a spot opening up, but there was some overlap. And basically it was going to be like, I think 2 or 3 days where I kind of had to crash in the living room because I was taking Ro's room. Ro was living there, and it was the middle of the summer, right? I moved there like end of June or whatever, after like a month after graduation. And this dude had no air conditioner in this room, and his bed was on the floor. And it literally, I walked into his room, like the room that I was going to take over, and I was like, have you ever seen a movie where like a superhero like Bruce Banner, somebody's the fucking Hulk, is like on the run, and so he's like living with a rolled up sack thing and sleeping in random places?
Yeah.
That's what this dude's room looked like. And he walked out shirtless in just sweatpants, and he was like, hey, what's going on, man? And like, I look behind him and I'm like, he looks like he's dressed and acting like a monk. And he's got this, and I knew him at school, and he's still the same guy, but just to see him in his own little element. And I remember we went to get coffee or something. It was like my first day there. And I remember thinking, like, is that all he owns is the stuff that's in there? There's like a pallet and a wind keeper and a chime or something. That's like the whole fucking room. And so we go to get coffee. And I was like walking with him, and, you know, he's a shorter dude, but he's so thick. And so, and so he's walking next to me, and I kind of am like dodging people, right? We're walking through New York, and it's a busy, full street, and we're kind of walking like this. And he's not doing that. He's just walking. And I'm like kind of dodging people. And I was like, man, you know, you kind of got to keep your wits about you. That's one of the things I love about the city, is like, I feel like it keeps you awake. You know, I'm always like checking, I'm juking around. And I kind of joking with him, and he goes, yeah, I don't really deal with that. And I was like, what? And he goes, I find if you just walk with your, I think, what did he say? I don't want to misquote him. We got to have him on the show. Maybe he remembers this story. Probably not. He was like, I find if you just walk with your chi forward, people step out of the way. And I was like, I bet if I was you, people would walk out of the way. Are you kidding? Like, I think that works for you, bro.
For you, bro. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that's if I could walk with your chi, yes, they would get out of the way. But I can't do that. I have to walk with my chi, which does not move people around.
Oh, man.
Not that kind of chi.
Buddy, that sounds like Ro, for sure, bro. You know, it was a blessing working with him in DC, and because he was always like a big bro to me in school. He was the guy you know what I mean? He was the guy that
he's the best.
Because he's so disciplined, bro.
Grounded,
and humility. And it's like, you know, and so skilled, but took the work to heart. You know what I mean? And just that discipline, that rigor, he continued it. Like, you know, like it's like guys who might be Navy SEALs or Marines, they talk about the good old days when they were waking up, running 5 miles. But it's like, bro, that's old. You don't do that anymore. You don't possess it. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to hear
who you are.
How dope you were back then. What are you doing now? You know what I'm saying? But like, I say that to say that when you watch Ro, even today, it's still that same level of rigor. Like, we were gladiators at School of the Arts. You know what I'm saying? Like, the work we were putting in. Yeah. He's taking that into the professional world. And that's the kind of human being that you want to be, man, because those people win, bro, because they're relentless. You know what I'm saying? And so, all right, I'm going on a hold. So
that's okay. You're good.
I did
you did 7 guitars.
In DC, was awesome. Went back home, found out that I was nominated for a Helen Hayes Award.
Right. I remember that.
Yep. Won the Helen Hayes Award, which was really sweet. You know what I mean? And it was kind of cool because I knew nobody in this DC community. It was like no one. It was just purely from the work, which I thought was kind of awesome. You know?
That's how you want to win.
Yeah, man. And then I came back home, and then I started working on another album. And I remember having a conversation with one of my homeboys. He calls me up and he's like, yeah, man, you know, I was talking to my sister and she and I were talking, and it seems like you might be a little unfocused. And I'm like, okay, tell me more. You know what I'm saying? This is one of my homeboys who
you're listening.
Yeah, I'm down with hearing criticism. It's not like he really cares about my well-being.
I understand.
So it's like, he's like, wait, well, it's like, you know, you go into these theater communities and you do this great work, you know, and then you'll go into this music community and then you'll do this great work, but you're leaving communities. So you don't really have an opportunity to build in one space. You know what I mean? Heard you in your podcast, I forget who you're talking to again, about that hyphenated thing and the nature of what we were talking about, me growing up as a musician and an actor, like wanting to play both sides, but realizing it takes so much just to do one thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
That kind of spoke to me deeply, bro. You know what I'm saying? And so I did the second album. It was cool. but I think the conversation came down to money. It's like, all right, this is why people have record labels. They're the bank. You know what I'm saying? If you have to fund all of this stuff, I mean, you're going to run out unless you know, got some deep resources or your parents got some deep pocket. But that certainly was not the case for me. And so, long story short, man, life started lifing. And I was dating my son's mom, and, you know, she, hey, Wayne, I'm pregnant. You know what I'm saying? And dang, you know what I'm saying? It was like a boom. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I don't, but I can imagine.
Yeah. And I'll tell you why. Is the obvious is like I've only known my life as being a bit of a wanderer and being an artist. Like sort of picking up, leaving, moving, coming and going as I please. And you talk about the nature of rearing a child, it, you know, it's discipline, it's consistency, it's stability. It's like, what does that look like? And then there was also the component of like, dang, I always dreamed of being married and then, you know, like, and having
doing
a kid.
It in order.
In order. But it ain't happened that way.
That ain't how life works, my friend. Not always.
And so, Rob, I had to sit with that, bro. I was like, how did you? Because me and my son's mom were like, thank God we're in like such a great space now. We were at odds, man.
Right.
It was really difficult. And, you know, so I had to sit with the tough questions of like, how did I end up here? What did I miss? What wasn't I paying attention to in terms of a life partner and connecting with someone, or have I denounced love and healthy understanding of relationship for sake of exclusively being tied to artistry? You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And so I had to sit with all of that life work, man. And things got rough, bro. Like, so for the next 5 years, I mean, I was home in Jacksonville, and things got pretty dark for me. You know what I'm saying?
Does that mean?
Dark in the sense that like, I was unclear about where my trajectory was going, my vision. I was now a dad. I was responsible to this thing. I was at odds with my son's mom. I didn't have a lot of money. Spiritually and emotionally, I felt like I was sort of disconnected.
Yeah.
And I was just unclear. Like I couldn't tell where true north was. You know what I mean? Like that fall in the movies where you like, you're reaching for something and you don't know what's going on. And I'll never forget.
Were you about 28 at the time?
28, man. Yeah.
I think, and this is just a theory, in talking to people, I think if you are, this is not my attempt to rationalize anything that you went through, but I think if you are accelerating and evolving at a proper pace in your maturity and your understanding of the world, your late 20s should be filled with that gravity that often accompanies tragedy, loss, nihilism. What the fuck are we doing this for? Why are we doing any of this? Like, is it even all of that? I think showing up in your late 20s for whatever reason, is a very healthy time for you to do that. It's kind of like getting your wisdom teeth out. Do it in your 20s. Because the older you get, the harder it is to heal from stuff like that. And I think all the stuff that you're describing, brother, I went through the same thing in my own version at the same time in my life. We're almost the same age. Were you 88, 87?
Yeah, 88.
Me too. So literally at the same time, my late 20s, I'm like overwhelmed with the sense of nihilism. Like, this is pointless.
Right.
All of it. We're little ants on a rock in space that nobody cares about. And everything we're doing here is like, I don't know, man. It's like two people when you see a cartoon drawing of a desert island, it's meaningless of those two people there because they're just going to die there. And whether they eat coconuts or go fishing, like who gives a shit? They're just going to die. And then no one's going to give a shit they were ever there in the first place. Like that kind of stuff taking over your brain is, I think, again, I'm not a religious man, but I think that is God. I think that is the world. I think that is your own brain trying to knock you out and see if you get the fuck back up.
That's it, bro.
Do you get up? How hard can you get hit and get back up?
Back up, man. And I know we're coming from different points of the road because I am a faith guy, but it's like, you're right. I felt like God needed to sit me still and sit me down so I could answer the most important questions. All this time we're in school talking about building character for performance. What about your character as a man? You know what I'm saying? That was the conversation that needed to happen in order for me to jump back into whatever I was doing. Like, I think I could never have been successful at anything, like, you know, artistically, if the man himself is not grounded. And so I'll tell you what happened. This is interesting, bro. Like, my lights got cut off at my grandmother's house where I was staying with here. I wasn't staying with her, but she left my cousin and I a house here in Jacksonville. And, you know, just things were that bad, man. Seriously. Right. And I went to my cousin's house and I slept on her couch and for like 4 days, man. And in those 4 days, I just like cried. I prayed. I just cried and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. Just like it, man, if you're up there and you're listening, you gotta say something to me, man. Like, I'm on the verge of losing it all, man. Like, I'm on the verge of messing this thing up. Like, you gotta say something to me, like, you know, and I'll never forget these words, Rob, like, that I felt were placed in my heart and in my mind was the Lord saying, you know, I did not create you to serve your art. I created you to serve me. And it was like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think in that moment, it was like my identity was my artistry. You know, and I've heard you speak on that as well in your podcast. It's like all things were, you know, artistry. It's how I measured myself and understood myself in the world. If I'm winning or losing, if I'm up or down based on how things are going professionally. You know what I mean?
I do.
And I think God was saying to me like, hey, there's a beautiful thing about life. There's a full spectrum of it. Go develop those other aspects of you. Go find some community. Go find some great relationships. Go talk to some people. Go laugh. Go have you know what I mean? Go watch a TV show. Like, you don't always have to feel like, all right, when you're away, somebody else is grinding harder than you. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you're like, go and do something. And from that point, man, I started like going to church. I got into Bible study. I started like developing a whole new community and friend group. Like, I started learning about money and you know, the financial literacy, like the things that should have been learning in school. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, dude. Believe me. Know, and that's a whole other podcast. Yes.
Yeah, bro. And so my whole thing just shifted, bro. And I became better than I've ever been. You know what I'm saying? And today I'm better than I've ever been.
Bro, the energy off of you is so great. I mean, I know we're virtual, but like it's so grounded and it's so bright. Like that darkness that you describe is not, you know, I can't smell it on you. You know what I mean? Like it's not there now because I feel like here's the thing that's really tough, man. And like you said, we've talked about this on the show plenty of times. Is people tie their identity to their artistry and they say like how I'm doing as an artist is but you know what's crazy is even people who are crushing it are waiting for this date that's coming later where that will have paid off and been worth it. Like they're not allowed to enjoy it right now for it being awesome. Like, you know, Luke Smith is one of my favorite examples that I keep bringing up because his episode just rings through my head. He's the best. And it's one of the most listened to episodes. So I tell everybody, go listen to it. It's great. But he talks about how he started acting in middle school, then he started doing more acting in high school, and then he went to school for acting, and then he got out and he started booking stuff, and then he kept booking stuff, and he's been booking stuff for 10 years, but he still doesn't always feel like he's a real actor. I'm like, what the fuck do you got to do, man? Like, you've been doing it your whole life, but you still struggle to give yourself the title of the one thing you've spent the most time doing. That's no, who else in the world does that? I mean, people sell a Beanie Baby and call themselves an entrepreneur. You've been an actor for 20 years, but I don't know if I'm really an actor. It's such a wild thing that we play this game with ourselves. And I think the thing that we forget, here's the analogy that I always make. We've all been in relationships that when they ended, because they ended, someone says to us, I feel like you wasted my time, or I can't believe I wasted so much time with you, or I wish I had known that this is who you were. I wouldn't have wasted my time. Yeah. Of all the things you could say to someone on the way out, eat shit and die, I hope I never see you again, I would rather take those than it was a waste of time. Because even if I'm not marrying someone and putting babies inside them, I spent my time with you. You know how valuable my fucking time is to me? Like, not just because it's my life and life is short, but like, I do have value in myself. I do have the ability to go hustle. I do have the ability to create things no one else can create, to tell stories no one else can tell. And I could have been doing that shit, but I didn't. I spent it with you, sitting by the lake, driving to your mom's, whatever, like all that stuff. And I had fun, God damn it, even if it didn't last forever. There were times that were great. And for you to say that because we're not going to spend our retirement together, that was a waste of your time. Fuck you. Like, all due respect. Eat shit. Like, that's the meanest thing you could say. And Wayne, it's the same thing with our artistry, because we tell ourselves, if we're not in service of that record deal, if we're not in service of that movie contract, we're wasting our time.
But
learning how to be a good father. I mean, even if I don't have a kid, why would I even think about that? I don't know, whatever, who cares? I got to go do this. I don't want to waste my time learning how to treat people with kindness, empathy, respect, build community, work on my own issues of maybe I'm a jealous person, maybe I have a short temper, maybe all these things that actually do get in the way of me being happy. I don't have time to work on any of that because I got to do stuff that's going to matter, that's going to pay off, that's going to blah, blah, blah later. And it's not a waste of time.
It's not a waste. And right, it's like most people ask, like, bro, like Jameson, when I saw him at a show, bro, Wayne, it was like you were here and then you just disappeared. I said, yeah, I mean, that's what it looks like from the outside looking in. You know what I mean? But hey, man, I was working on this work, on that hard work, that life work. You know, Gerald always said that to us. Acting work is life work. You know what I mean? Like, if you be interested in doing the work in life so that you're well enough to do the work, you know, professionally, man. And that's always rang true to me, man. So I definitely agree with that when you're saying, like, hey, that is the work. Do the hard work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I think it's tough because it's like you said, sometimes we use the stage or the mic or whatever, and we use that as a channel for all that stuff, right? Lysander. That's a way for me to act out. That's a way for me to yell at somebody and not get in trouble. That's a way for me to get upset and kick some shit and not go to detention. Yeah, that's great. But you also, that's the first step. That's Brentwood Elementary. Later, when we get older, we do have to address, why do you need to kick shit, man? Why do you want to rip the pages out the book so bad? We found a way for you to channel it so no one gets hurt. But now are we going to ask the next question, which is like, you okay?
Are you okay? You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing is, like, you know, Ashley Gates, you know, she and I are so close still, man. And
I love her.
I see her all the time. We talk. Well, I don't see her all the time, but I go and see her from time to time. And it's just like, I always thank her for like, that text class about like, is it absolutely true what you're telling yourself? You know what I'm saying? Like, like learning to have the proper conversation with yourself and learning to tell the truth. You know what I mean? Like, it's all right if I'm not all right. It's okay. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's completely cool, but you work through it and you're honest about it. And I just think truth is important for that to be the foundation of things. Like, like you're saying, we can channel it forever, but you still got to come off the stage, bro. You still got to walk back and, and visit these same people who irritate you or whatever the case. Like, you still have to look at yourself in the mirror. Let's get that together, man. Like, and I'll be honest, Rob, my favorite guys, like oftentimes the best actors are very, ironically, sometimes the most troubled people, you know what I mean? Broken people sometimes. And that's the beauty of it, is that they're using that, but I think as I'm growing older, I'm like loving the Denzel Washingtons of the world who seem to be, they're great actors, but also great men. You know what I'm saying? And
I love
like,
Keanu Reeves. He's one of my go-tos. Like, every time he talks, you're like, oh man, you have done the work on your own heart.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And I respect that so much more than someone who's willing to crucify themselves for their shit. That was the juvenile version of me. When I was young, I was like, look at him bleeding for his shit. Like, that's so dope. Like, wow. And then I got older and I'm like, man, why you gotta bleed, dude? Like, you don't have to do that. And it hurts. And sometimes watching people you care about put themselves through that is tough. So what about that person's wife? What about that person's kids? What about the people around them that are watching Robin Williams go through that shit? And knowing, yeah, great, my dad, Robin Williams, he's so funny. Yeah, we love him. We wish all the times you don't see him, he was happy like he is when you do see him, because he's not. And man, all right. So I know we got to wrap up, man, because I've really, really enjoyed this. I'd love to have you on again if you into it.
I'd love to do that, man. This has been awesome, bro. I didn't get a chance to talk about NYU. Maybe we'll talk about it next go around.
100%. We'll get it. And you're just at the beginning of that journey, really, man. So we'll get you a little deeper into it, and then we'll talk about how it's going for you. Because I think that break and then getting back into the acting and being back in the city and all that stuff, I'm fascinated by that story. But I want to make sure we could dig into it, and maybe we let a little more of it unfold. Thank you, Wayne. I gotta tell you,
I'm so happy to see you, bro. And thanks for calling me, man. Thanks for hitting me up, and I'm just happy to see you, man. I'm happy about this whole thing. It's so cool to hear my peers and what they've been up to, like, and you creating that space, and it's just beautiful, bro. Like, I mean, a testament to you as a man and always being able to reach everyone. That's beautiful, bro.
Well, I really appreciate it. There are people out there who don't like me, Wayne, I promise, so that you can sleep at night.
Hey, tell them come holler at me, man. Tell them come holler at me.
Right. So good. I want to leave it with just this last quote, because I've been listening to Killer Mike's new album, and I know we were talking about hip hop before, and there's this one track that Dave Chappelle does an intro on. It's a track called Run, and it's a spoken word. He's not like rapping, but it's just a spoken word thing. And one of the lines he says in it that just keeps echoing in my head, and I feel like it kind of sums up this whole conversation we just had, he says, so what's your excuse? You're not perfect. You've made a mistake. You're not good enough. No one's asking you to be perfect. We're only asking people to be honest. And I think that is the bar which we should all just keep trying to hold ourselves to. Not perfection, not success, not whatever. Almost everything else can go by the wayside of just be honest. Just be honest with yourself. Be honest with your friends and family. Be honest in your art. Like, I think that's what I feel like you and I have both been saying for like an hour and a half.
I agree, bro. I agree. I love that. I love that, bro. Yeah, that's solid.